everyone, and welcome to this week's live edition of our Immigration Question webinar series. Your trusted source for the latest immigration updates, expert legal insight, and live conversations with licensed attorneys. My name is Anusia Mukherjee, and I'll be your host for today's session, From Love to Legal Status, Securing a Marriage Green Card, Even in Tough Situations. Falling in love, that part is easy. But when it comes to navigating the US immigration system as a couple, things can get complicated fast. Whether you're just starting your life together or facing legal roadblocks like past immigration violations or criminal history, today's session is designed to help you understand your options and avoid costly mistakes. Joining us for today's session is attorney Natalie Womack. Attorney Womack is the founder of the law office of Natalie Driver Womack, where she's provided compassionate and strategic immigration counsel since 2011. Licensed in the District of Columbia and based in Virginia Beach, she brings years of experience in marriage based green cards, waivers, removal defense, and more. You're welcome to the show, Attorney Womack. We're glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Today's webinar will cover the marriage-based green card process, from basic eligibility to dealing with complex legal issues like priority overstays, RFEs, or criminal history. We'll also discuss how to prepare for a USCIS interview and build strong evidence of a bona fide marriage. Before we get started, just a quick reminder, Immigration Question is a platform that connects users to licensed immigration attorneys. We are not a law firm. All legal services are provided independently by attorneys in our network. Now let's just dive into the business of the day. Attorney Womack, for couples just starting out, what does the basic marriage-based green card process look like, especially if one spouse is inside the U.S. versus outside of the U.S.?
Gotcha. Okay, so that's a great question, and I think it's a complete split. And Alex, can you show the presentation? Okay, so the first thing is, I guess when we're walking through it, is that for both in country and outside of the country, you're dealing with the aspect or the acronym of love. And that's how I kind of walk through this whole process. And it will be applicable to if you're in the country or outside. So first, just know the L is dealing with your legal status, and that's just making sure that you're eligible and the individual that you're petitioning for is admissible into the country. O is for the official filing and paperwork, and we'll talk about what that looks like. And then B, the verification process, and that's the interview process. And E is the expectation, what to expect after. So I'll flip to the next screen here. What are you seeing?
Oh, I still see the LOVE going on love.
Okay. All right, let's see. I can't get down to my thing here, and I'm pretty sure I'll try to navigate through my thing. Let's see. All right. Can you see my next slide?
Not yet. But you can go ahead. It's okay.
Okay. All right. So then the aspect of actually dealing with the consular processing, again, is going to be the official paperwork and filing. So when you're doing the official paperwork and filing, that is filing your I-130. The difference here, and that's your petition for alien relative, you're going to petition, and then after you petition, you have to actually wait. So once you wait and then you then get approval from USCIS, then you're applying and you're doing your DS-260. And that application that actually goes to the National Visa Center, the application is a little bit different. Okay. So again, the biggest difference when you're doing consular processing is the fact that you would be petitioning, doing that I-130, and then you would be waiting. Okay. And then after you wait, you do the DS-260, that application, and that will go through. And then you will do your interview actually in the country where you are coming from. And that interview, that'll be an interview that would be alone. Your significant other would not be with you. So that is how the consular processing aspect would work. It is different for in-country, but it is what would happen if you're doing consular processing, and that's outside of the country.
All right, that is a great breakdown, actually. Now, things get when couples are dealing with past immigration violations or even criminal records. How can
Mhm.
someone still qualify for a marriage green card in this tough situation?
Okay, so those are tough situations, and what's always important is to be honest with your attorney. And if you think about it, like, you have nothing to lose at this point. That attorney, there's attorney client privilege. I always try to make sure that my clients feel very comfortable with me to tell me anything that there is, because we don't want something to come up that we could have fixed in the preliminary parts. So if you do have something that is dealing with your criminal history, we may have to, one, it would be just simply doing an assessment. It may be an issue or a criminal charge, getting your disposition from either your country or the country where the issue happened to determine whether or not it is a crime that would make you inadmissible. If it is something where we need to actually do a waiver, we would actually submit a waiver. And one of the biggest things that I would do also for an individual who does have issues with criminal history, if there was ever anything where the individual has actually been in the country and has dealt with immigration, I would do a FOIA request, which is a Freedom of Information Act request. And that FOIA request would kind of like set our landscape. So I would know if there's anything else that could possibly come up. Because if we already do have one issue, we don't want something else to pop up. At this point, we would be submitting your waiver and making sure that we had a very tight package.
Definitely. Evidence is everything in these cases. What are some of the best ways couples can prove that their marriage is real? And what is the common red flags the USCIS looks out for?
Right. This is a lot of acronyms, right?
I know.
So yes. And I love acronyms. So in that love aspect, and you're doing you're checking for your legal status. And that was kind of what you initially talked about. That's making sure that you are a US citizen, and then the individual that you're petitioning for, there's not any inadmissibility issues, right? Then the
Mhm.
next place is that official paperwork and filing. And that's kind of where we are here, because you were specifically, can you state your question again? I want to make sure I get exactly what we need.
So I was asking about the common red flags that USCIS looks out for.
Okay, so when we're actually petitioning with the I-130 and the I-45, if you're doing it in country or if you're doing it consular processing, you want to make sure that you're showing a bona fide marriage. And that bona fide marriage means that this is in fact a true marriage. And I think we get so caught up in the legal aspect that if you pull back and look at it reasonably, then you'll start to see. So reasonably, when two people join a union, maybe there's dating. Maybe there is paperwork to show that maybe you traveled. There's pictures that you have. So this is the evidence that you would start gathering, right? Or if, let's say, if you decided to move in together, you're doing joint rent, right? So that's another aspect to show that we are starting a relationship. This is starting to be bona fide. When you get married, then you would have, of course, your marriage certificate. You would have pictures of you guys standing in the wedding and actually being a part of the wedding. Now, also with the pictures, just a side note, know that when you're doing pictures, it's not the pictures that are standing there and everybody's, crisp, clean, and happy. It is the pictures that's actually showing you living your life, right? Those are also beautiful pictures, but you want to show like you doing an event, you in the wedding, individuals around you, you're laughing, you're having fun. This is, again, just a memorial of your life. Okay. Then after life starts, you're going to live somewhere. Show that you have a lease together with both names. You're going to have utilities. Show the names of both utilities, as well as, we're living in this life together. What if something happened to me or happened to you? Then it becomes insurance, right? Who's the beneficiary of your insurance? It should be your significant other. So these are the types of things that USCIS is looking for. Another aspect that could come up is, as you're living life, maybe you have children. Then a part of this may be your birth certificates for your children. That is also evidence. And also note that when you are putting this package together, you're submitting it to USCIS, life still goes on, and you're still collecting that evidence, because you're going to have to remove your conditions if you're doing it 2 years before your actual initial marriage. So you're continuing to create all of this evidence, and whatever happens in life that shows that there's a joint union or a bona fide marriage, you want to show pictures that's continuously showing your life together. You decide to buy a car together. That's a car in
Mhm.
both of your names. So that is the type of evidence that USCIS is definitely looking for, to show, because you got to think about it. If you are going to give your money and all benefits in the event that something happens to you to another person, they have to realize this is serious. This is how people build lives together.
Definitely. Thank you for that. Now let's talk about RFEs and waivers. A lot of people panic when they get a request for evidence or realize they need a waiver. What
Mhm.
should they know and how should they prepare?
Okay. So, especially right now, RFEs should not panic you at all. Okay. So, I always like to tell my clients, don't be scared, be prepared, right? Even in the
Mm-hmm.
onset of actually doing your application. When you're doing your application, you make sure you submit a very tight package. But we have more so the ability to ask for additional evidence, and you may see additional procedural loopholes that happen in this administration. So what you want to do is make sure that you don't panic and you get that information together. I think that it's very important, especially now, to connect with an experienced attorney, because you have to understand, think about getting a text message. You may send a text message and intend it to mean XYZ, but the person on the receiving end gets it, reads it, and says, well, what did they mean by this? What are they trying to say, right? Immigration, it may be the exact same thing. So you may provide me a document that is thinking that you have now answered the question that was in your request for additional evidence, but I may look at it and say, this is not it. We need to show something else, because they may say, we want to see that you have financial accounts together. So then you may present to me an account with both of your names on it and show me maybe like a 3-month history of the account. But if I look at it and you're thinking that it's good to go, but if I don't see continuous things coming out, and I don't see your life together, and I don't see that movement, then I'm like, you've just done exactly what they've asked for, but you have missed the mark, right? So I think those things are very important, not to panic, but just to be aware that you're going to have to answer the exact questions that they're asking, and an attorney who kind of like knows exactly what they're looking for, that would help you kind of streamline the process. And the same things with waivers. It is knowing that, again, assessing it from the outset, being completely honest with your attorney, because that should be something that is done in the beginning if you can. But if it's not, if you have not, maybe you didn't start working with an attorney and now you realize you need one, again, honest conversations and making sure you're submitting exactly what you should. It should not panic you right now. Interviews should not panic you. Requests for additional evidence should not panic. Those are going to be the standard.
Definitely. Thank you. The
Sure.
USCIS marriage interview is often one of the most nerve wracking parts of this process.
Yes.
I know you talked about some tips already, but what other tips would you give for couples to be absolutely prepared and not like panic at the last minute?
Right. Okay. So again, everything that I do, even in the law, I try to pull back and give like a common sense or reasonable, right? So if you think about it, you've married the individual, but now you just are trying to get the ability to be comfortable in the country that you want to live in. But at the end of the day, this is your person. You've chosen them. This is your marriage. You're just going to go and tell them, go for a little thing and tell them exactly what it is. You have a connected marriage. You have this person. So you want to, one, make sure that you are fully prepared, but you're also confident in your union, right? Because when you walk into that room, you're walking into the room with the confidence of knowing that this is the person that I've chosen and we have prepared for this interview. And what that prepared means is the fact that I like to give my clients a copy of everything that we've submitted, having it tabbed so that you're not flipping through the information, because your attorney can be there or the attorney may not be there, and that is okay. I've done it both ways. But I have my clients prepared where they can tab through what they need if there is an ask for something. So you would have that paper presentation. Then you would also make sure that you're presenting yourself how you should. That means that having a conversation and a true, maybe a date with your significant other the evening before or a couple of weeks before to walk through your history, because maybe your significant other is horrible with dates. On that day, they need to be good. Okay, so just be good on that day. So you kind of know what what the individual, your significant other, you don't remember dates very well. Make sure that you get the dates right here. Okay, so you're having those conversations. That's one of the preparations. Another one is to, I almost feel like it's game day. All right. So game day, you don't just show up and say, I'm not sure where the place is, I'll just come in whenever. No, you need to know where the location is. And if you can, make sure you factor in traffic. I always tell my clients to be about 45 minutes to an hour early so that you can calm your nerves, you can get in the environment, you can see that it's just interviews and that they're just going to sit and they're going to talk to you. But you make sure that you are confident and well prepared. And also another aspect is you dress for success. You dress for the fact that this is the government, okay? This is the
Mm-hmm.
federal government, and you want to make sure that you go in presenting yourself very well. So I think it's, physically preparing, knowing where the surroundings will be, and also know that you're going to be going through metal detectors. So don't come in with a bunch of things or bulky jewelry. So you want to make that process as easy as possible. So making sure that you're physically prepared and mentally prepared and you can answer those questions. And always be honest. Be honest with your attorney, be honest with the individual who's interviewing you.
All right. Those were some useful advice. To our
Okay.
amazing audience, thank you for joining us. Whether you're tuning in from Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, we're thrilled to have you here. We are immigrationquestion.com, a two-in-one platform built with lead and case management to help simplify the immigration process. You can ask your immigration questions for free in any language and get connected with a verified attorney for guidance. You may also receive a free confidential initial consultation. Just visit www.immigrationquestion.com and sign up today. And we've got exciting news. We've just launched our new app built to serve both attorneys and users seamlessly. Now, Attorney Womack, as a licensed legal professional working closely with both documented and undocumented immigrants, how do you view the role of platforms like immigrationquestion.com in supporting, empowering the immigration community today? And in what ways do you think it adds value to individuals seeking legal guidance and trustworthy information?
So I think this platform is amazing. And that was one of the things that we were talking about before is that, in everything, sometimes people lose their humanity and their kindness, and they're more so thinking about money, their own, specific interests. The fact that, you've provided a platform where individuals can have free webinars, amazing. The fact that they can ask a free question, and that was something that I didn't know, that they can ask questions. Again, that is beautiful because I think in anything that I've done, with my daughter or just in life, sometimes I would like to connect with a professional to ask that question that's burning in my soul. Like, can you answer this question for me very quickly? So I think that's beautiful and it's very helpful. In addition to the fact that you also answer them in different languages, I think that's also exceptionally helpful. So I think it's an amazing platform. I'm very happy about it. And I'm even more happy that I'm able to be here for you guys today. I think this is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Before we take live questions from our audience, Attorney Womack, do you have any final advice for couples going through? I know you've been talking about a lot of tips, but what is like the most golden tip you would think of that people normally forget but is so significant to remember?
Use common sense, right? Because I think that is use common sense and calm down. I understand that it's, like when you're not in it, someone telling you to calm down, it's like, how dare you tell me to calm down? You're not dealing with this. But the reason why I say calm down is because when you're in a panic and you're heightened in your concern, you miss key things, right? So like one of the
Mhm.
key things will be, if you are now going to say that you've never worked in the US, but you have an Indeed.com resume that's out there that says where you've worked and how long you've worked, we've got a problem, right? If you're saying that you are now and you've entered into a bona fide marriage and this is a person that you want to spend your life with, but you're on a dating app because you forgot to take it down, right? Or you're posting on Facebook, right? So, and it may be something that you've just forgotten, right? But it is saying, realizing that you have to use your common sense, that you are now dealing with the federal government. You're asking for a benefit to sanction the ability to live in this country. So I think that that is the biggest thing, is making sure that you are reasonable, you use common sense and calm down so that you don't miss any specific steps or questions that are asked of you. Because when your attorney is doing that consultation, they're not asking you questions and for random reasons, right? All of the questions that are being asked are specific because we need to make sure that you're eligible. There's nothing that makes you inadmissible. There's nothing that makes me think that I need to do a FOIA request for you. There's nothing that makes me think that, hold on, there's something missing here. Because if there's a missing piece of your puzzle, if I see it, then I want to preemptively strike and give it to USCIS before they ask. So that maybe we don't even have an RFE. So I think those are the biggest things. Just be, using common sense, and then calm down. And then I think going about with someone who you trust and that you feel as though, you know what, we can do this together. I think that's the biggest part.
All right. That was insightful, Attorney Womack. To our audience, the floor is now open. Drop your questions in the chat, and Attorney Womack will answer as many as possible. If you'd like to call us live and ask directly, dial 516-703-3483. And the questions have come in. So this is from Hadiza. My husband and I just got married and a few months ago, excuse me. He's a US citizen and I'm on a student visa. Do we have to wait a certain amount of time before applying for a green card, and how do we prove it's real when everything feels rushed?
Right. Okay. So I had a client, it was the same exact thing. It was a student visa, and then they got married. Okay. So if your
Mhm.
student visa is still valid and you can still use a student visa, I would more than likely tell my client not to immediately file, right? Like you can, but I don't think that there's the necessity to do it immediately right now. Not all attorneys will probably tell you that. But and the reason why I say that I don't think there's an immediacy to do it is because you're on a student visa, okay? And then also they're going to look at timing. So if you're on a student visa and you say, "Oh, let me go get married," and then say, "Well, did you go get married because your student visa was expiring?" So I would look at the situation. So again, as we talked about before, every
Mhm.
attorney says it depends, but it really does depend. I would look at your student visa. I would determine when is it expiring. And then after knowing when it is expiring, then we would say, okay, now we're getting gear to petition. And here's another aspect too, is like, when you are applying for marriage-based green card, your overstay, if it's less than 180 days, it can be forgiven when you're applying this way. So there's a little bit of space there. And then I guess with regards to the second aspect, how do we prove that that it's real when everything is rushed? I think the misnomer is thinking that that they believe you. Go in knowing that they don't believe you, right? So go in with the deficit to understand. It's very similar to the principle of like innocent until proven guilty, right?
Mhm.
In
Mhm.
reality, sometimes, depending on it, it feels as though the person is guilty when they're simply charged. Okay. So
Mhm.
that is a lot of times the way individuals feel the minute that they put in their paperwork. They're like, now I have to prove it. And the reality of the matter is that is the truth. You do.
Mhm.
But part of proving it is making sure that you have that exceptional evidence, making sure that if you are, have the ability to live together, and if you are blending your lives together, that's what you should be working to do, right? So all of those things will start to be proof. And even if there's something, I like to talk to my clients to see what their life looks like, because there
Mhm.
may be something that you may not even think that is part of the proof process that it is. But I truly believe that your truth will be your evidence. So just continue to live your truth, but just being aware that this is immigration, and just live your life together. But yes, I understand it does feel rushed, but just know that they're automatically thinking it's not real. You're going to have to prove that. And that's okay. That's kind of where we know we are.
All right. All right. That makes a lot of sense actually. I think we have another question.
Sure.
All right, from David. I overstayed my tourist visa a while back, and now I'm married to my partner who's a citizen. Am I completely disqualified, or is there still hope for a green card through marriage?
Oh, there's hope. Yes, for sure. So even though you overstayed, it's okay because of the fact it's a marriage-based green card. So that will be forgiven. The only thing that I just would like to make you mindful of, again, not scared, prepared, right? If you do not have status and that tourist visa has expired in this climate, you would want to go ahead and start that paperwork. And I always tell my clients, once they have petitioned and we get that I-797C notice, which is that receipt notice, it becomes everything. I tell my clients to carry it on them fold it up in your wallet, whatever, carry it on you, because what this does is it tells everyone that you have something pending with USCIS. If you're currently here and that tourist visa is expired, then you would want to go ahead and start that process, because that now tells any government official that you're in process with the government. But
Definitely.
you definitely hope.
Next question we have is, all right, my husband and I are in a long distance marriage. He's in the US and I'm still abroad. Is it even possible to apply for a marriage green card when we're not living together yet?
Yes, of course. And here's the thing. This is kind of like, the government understands that in that way you can't, you know what I mean? You can't live together, right? But here's how, like, when I have someone who is in the US and their spouse is in another country, them visiting the individual, their plane tickets, that becomes proof, right? Because you're not going to have the proof of living together. You're not going to have those things, right? Another aspect is, like, let's say things are expensive, you can't travel. Show me some evidence of your FaceTime. Show me evidence of your chats, showing me that you are having a relationship, and you can do very creative things. So let's say, for instance, that you're not able to be together because of the fact that you're in different countries. When you have a birthday, maybe you have that birthday and you have a birthday party and it's on FaceTime. You have pictures of that. You, again, continue to live your life together, live your truth, and then just make sure you're documenting it when you can. So that is perfectly normal and what is definitely expected. So that is that. There's no ability for you to do that, and it's fine. The only things you would have to do is, one, show the marriage certificate, identify who everyone is, make sure there's no issues for criminal history or any form of immigration issues. Then you go ahead and apply. And again, that's the I-130 that we talked about before. You wait, because this is outside of the country. Then you do your DS-260. If you're in the country, it's completely different. But outside of the country for this situation, that's exactly what you would do, and it's fine.
All right, that makes sense. Next question is, I've been married to my wife for 2 years and we applied for my green card, but the interview got flagged for more evidence. What kind of questions should we expect in a second interview? It's starting to feel like a trial more than a process.
Okay. Again, it kind of is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think, and I've been, and I've worked for the federal government. I've worked for the state government. So I understand, I understand how government works, and that is truly, that is where you are, right? It doesn't change the fact that you have married the person that you love, and your union is what it is. But now it is just almost like the logistics and the specifics of going through this additional interview. Now, the interview process, they're probably going to ask you more questions, and you may be subject to a Stokes interview. And standard, when you have an interview and you're in the country, so this is not talking about consular processing, this is in the country. Your interviews will be with you and your spouse. You can have your attorney there. And again, we talked about sometimes the attorney is not there. You'll have your book, you will have prepared, you will know where it is. You won't come in wearing a whole bunch of clothes and something that's heavy, and they're trying to make sure there's no weapons or anything. So you're in the interview. Now, they could separate you during the interview and ask you very specific questions, and that's a Stokes interview. Those are more detailed, and those types of questions will be and it sounds daunting, but they're trying to really truly figure out, are you living together in this house? Who gets up first? What color are your sheets? What color is the person's toothbrush? Right? So they're going to ask you more pinpointed questions, and it will be to the point where they are vetting you harder. But again, that's okay. Everyone, when you go to a job, you have an interview. You have to prove yourself in order to get the benefit of the job. So it's the same thing here. I would just say to make sure that you work with an attorney. And part of the issue, or part of the fact in doing that, is I would make sure that the individual has submitted their package to me so that I could view their package to see what they have submitted. And then we would go through and we would actually review and kind of go through that process to prep you. But it does feel like that, and it's okay. You just have to be very prepared. Oh, and
Right.
there is another aspect, just making sure, again, even in those interviews, You could be in the interview, and if you have your cell phone on you, just be mindful of the fact that the immigration officer may ask you to see your phone. Okay. So you may have communications on your phone, but again, when you're living your truth, the only thing that's on that phone is just additional evidence that bolsters the fact that this is in fact a valid marriage. So I did want to make sure that I make that point too.
Definitely.
My co-host.
Host decided to join in.
Yes.
All right. Next question is our next question is my wife and I recently got separated, but we were married for over 3 years before that. And my green card is still conditional. What happens now? Can I still apply to move my condition on my own?
Yes. Sorry, there's a lot of things happening. I
No,
apologize.
it's okay.
Um, okay, so yes, so this is, and I had a case like this. They were removing the condition, and they were separated. The biggest thing with everything with USCIS and the government always is to be honest and truthful, right? So you can still have the condition removed because if you really think about the logistics of applying is to just prove that you have a bona fide marriage, meaning the fact that the time when you entered into that marriage, it was true, that was your intent. The reality is life happens. Look at the divorce rate. Okay. So it is not to say that now because you're going through immigration and you marry, you have to stay together. The government understands that life happens. But what you would do is, again, you would make sure that you are proving a tight package. You're going to have to go through and show again that that marriage was in fact bona fide and intentional when it happened. When you guys were going through your process, you would still be showing that the joint connection between, living together, your utilities, things along those lines. I know sometimes it gets a little tricky when the person is not as helpful, but we can, an attorney can always help you work around that, right? So like one example would be, well, we didn't have the same account. You should, okay? You should have the same account. But let's say if you don't have the same account, maybe if you have rent and maybe the other individual pays half of the rent, you pay the other half of the rent. I would show that money is coming out of your account to go to half of what your rent is. So that would show that you're adding to this, your home union, right? So there's different things that you can do, but don't at all think that because you are now separated and you're not together, that prevents you from removing your condition. It does not. It can happen.
All right. I think the next one is going to be our last question.
Okay.
So, our last question is my husband doesn't want to file the green card paperwork anymore, and things are a bit rocky. But I've already started building a life here. Is there any legal way to get status if the marriage falls apart?
So, wow, the last question is exceptionally tricky. Okay, so I think that if that person came to me, I would kind of assess their background. Because to me, one of the first things that I'm thinking about would be potentially VAWA, right? So is there any form of abuse? And it doesn't have to be physical abuse, it could be emotional abuse, because the individual knows what was at stake for you, right? And that is what VAWA looks, and that's the Violence Against Women's Act. And it looks to protect immigrants from U.S. citizens using their status as basically leverage over them. So that would be kind of like I would talk to you about, what is your background, what happened, and then you would be able to self-petition. But yeah, because I think that's a tricky situation there. But again, just remember that when you're doing your application and when you're applying for the green card, it is truly the proof process of at the time that you entered into this union, it was truly the intent to be married and that you guys were starting your life together. That is what it questions. And then that is what the basis of the approval or denial is. But that one is a tricky one. I would like to talk to the individual for this one, but I would not think that it is impossible.
All right. I think we have one more question and then we're
Okay.
done.
Hopefully it's not as hard as that one.
I understand. This one I think is we filed everything, but USCIS hasn't given us any update in 4 months now. How long is too long to wait? And what can we do if things stay stuck?
Well, with USCIS, you got to understand too that this is a change of administration. There's a lot of staff turnover, so I'm not terribly surprised that it's a delay. And there was always a delay with government, anyways. Part of the things that you can do, it depends on what your delay is. It may be one you could. One of the things that I do is I do the info pass. You can do an info pass and actually go to the USCIS office and talk to an immigration officer and ask, what is the status of my case? This is exceptionally helpful for instances like, let's say if you've applied and you have an I-131 and need to travel immediately, then sometimes you can have it expedited by, again, using the info pass. So if it looks like things are stalled, of course they have the online portal and you can kind of look up your status. But again, new turnover staff, so that's going to be a problem. So I would say definitely I would work on doing an info pass appointment to see if you can kind of get some answers that way. But it is not unheard of for it to be taking longer right now.
All right, perfect. And that's a good way to end. That was an excellent way to end the session. Thank you so much for joining us, and a special thank you to our a special guest, Attorney Womack, for your practical and strategic insights. We hope this webinar helped answer all your questions. Remember, at immigrationquestion.com, you can ask your immigration questions for free and get connected to a licensed attorney in good standing who can help better understand your options. You may qualify for a free initial confidential consultation. Visit our site to learn more. Don't forget, you can rewatch this session or listen to the previous episodes on Spotify. Just search for Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. Join us again on Wednesday for another enlightening edition regarding another burning immigration topic. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. Thank you again, Attorney Womack, for all your insight, and it was a great session. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.